Well, it's... Oof, I look puffy. I didn't sleep that well.
I look washed out.
Do you?
Yes.
I didn't sleep that well last night. I'm still kind of sick, and it snowed last night. It's what day of the week is it? It's Monday. It's Monday.
Veterans Day.
It's Veterans Day.
So
it's
our
Monday.
children are home.
All of our children are home, and we have a very special message from our eldest.
Come here.
Are you going to come and stand right here and tell them your message? They can't see you. You have to sit here.
Okay. I don't want to be like annoying. Don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe.
She watches lots of YouTube and wanted to say that.
Yep.
But you can do what you want.
You can do what you want. You're not required to do anything. So,
this video is my idea.
as you can see, I'm really not ready for my close-up. Why did you have an idea to do this video?
Because I'm so proud of the job you did on the 62 MAS. You did such a good job. Oh, everybody knows I'm shaky, so I'll do my best not to shake. It's just amazing.
It came out pretty well.
It looks perfect.
He's
modest. I don't have to be.
It came out fine. This is just been, there's been this crazy explosion of people, of interest. All these people writing me about this watch and this video and video stuff that I've done and this watch specifically. And I've had more inquiries to buy this watch than any watch in the last good number of years, of people out of the blue, writing me writing on Facebook of all crazy things, Instagram, asking to buy this watch. So there's a lot of interest in these watches. Mm-hmm. So she thought it would be a nice idea to sort of talk about the 62 MAS and sort of its history and where it sits in terms of the Seiko line of divers. And
we haven't done a Seiko 101 video in a long time. So.
No, we have not. So we're gonna break and we'll talk we'll just give a brief overview of the 62 MAS and that kind of stuff. And I'll make sure to blow my nose before we start. My sinuses are just... It's weird. We jumped. We didn't have any fall. We went straight into winter.
That happens a lot.
Not like this, though. It hasn't been like this for a long time. It's wacky anyway, but it's destroying my sinuses. Let's break and go talk about watches.
Hi.
Okay, so here again is the watch in question.
I can't believe that loom job you did.
It's very good that I couldn't sleep and I got back up because it allowed me to look at the loom when it was about half cured and make some tweaks to the color because it was a little bit light. All the loom is original. The 9 and the 12 and the 9 marker were the ones that I redid. The dial loom is all original. This handset is original. It's not original to this watch, but it's an original correct set that would have been used for this watch with the correct green Dainey loom. All the rest of it is Dainey. All the rest of it is original. One of the things, it's unusual because these have the early style. Folks, last night I was working on my MG and I was dealing with the axles and working on stuff. My hands were insanely filthy. Believe it or not, this is the result of scrubbing for 10 solid minutes with Comet. And I still...
That's healthy.
Hell, I'm trying to get my hand. I knew I was going to show my hands, but people say, "Hey, your hands are so wash your hands." Blah blah blah. Blah, blah. These things are super clean. I need to go get some of that orange gunk stuff. But anyway, stop complaining about my hands. I'm doing what I can. These watches so rarely ever come with no water damage at all because they have a non-locking crown. And they're not, and there's no crown guards, and so it's not super secure. The thing that made this watch really kind of groundbreaking, this was Seiko's first true diver, 150 meters. It looks like the older school watches, like we have. Here is a Swiss skin diver. This is my Arlie. And so this, you can see the lineage, or sort of, gosh darn it, the stylistic matchings, right? Mm-hmm. You can see how they kind of, they came off the same designing board, but in terms of quality, the Seiko is way superior. This one has a good ETA movement in it, but Seiko's case.
I have a stupid question.
Yeah.
What does ETA? I know it's a Swiss thing, but what?
ETA is a big watch movement manufacturer. They designed and made a huge bulk of the amount of Swiss watches in the world. They're part of Swatch Group now, but they are ETA was their thing. This has an ETA 274 something or I don't remember. I think it's a 2742. I don't remember. But anyway, one of the things that I've noticed is that the Swiss watches from this time, their casing isn't that. Seiko was very, very good at their casing. They didn't have like a weird selection of like movement rings and strange adapters to get a movement to fit into a case. They designed the movement and the case together. And this is something that they continually do up to the current time. And so when I look at these side by side, the quality of Seiko stuff is just it's above this. They've always been fantastic with their casing. So this was Seiko's first foray into these skin divers, but unlike these European ones, not only was it sort of better made and purpose designed, they went for much higher resistance. But you can definitely see the lineage. There it is. So this one's 1966. And gosh darn it, I've got to come up with a better system. So then, just to give some context for where we're at, 66, and then in 68, they came up with the 6105.
That watch looks familiar.
It ought to. This one has a service crown. Anyway, but yeah, so this is the 6105 8000 or 8009, depending. And it has the sort of the step up that it has from the 62 MAS. It's got the new movement. This is the old 6.2 movement. This is the obviously 6105, but they're utterly different. Like this was a new purpose-built movement. This was part of the old pre-Daini Sua split. This was a pure Sua movement, and so it had some similarities, but it beats higher. It has a different kind of date quick set. It has a much simplified date quick set setup, though it still uses sort of a set lever, but it's an improved watch, even though these are great watches. Then, of course, in 1970, they came out with the cushion case, 6105 8110, what people call the Willard. And then after that, here's another watch that came out at the same time, really, as the 6105. These came out in also 68. So both of these came out. Now, the common elements that Seiko had...
They look different.
How do you mean?
Well, if they came out at the same time, I don't know.
Well, because this is a 300-meter dive watch.
Oh.
And so this was like Seiko trying to get really deep. This one still is only 150. This was... and also this had a high beat movement in it, which was kind of a big deal at the time. The biggest common elements between all of these, though, is the way that the dials are done, where they have these high markers with these flat tops and flat hands, and they kept that. They persisted with that, and it was a real marker of how they looked at this time. The early 6105s had high polish tops to the markers. But then, as soon as they dropped into these, instead of being high polished, they became frosted. But the basic structure is still there. You have big markers, big loom wells, lots of loom. Later on, when Seiko moved away from the Daini Sua thing and moved into the 7002s and then the 7S26s, they changed the way that they looked entirely. Flat printed dials. But they still were very much a true professional dive watch at that time. And they were ISO certified and all that stuff. And so this comes along and it's very much all of the same family, even though this appears very different than that.
Why do you have that watch here?
Oh, I wanted to talk about different ways to approach how to do a dive watch. This is a Benris Class A, or I forget what this is. I'm half asleep. But this is a different way. This is a true military dive watch, and this is how the U.S. military approached.
It's amazing how small it is compared to some Seikos are gigantic.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a one-piece case with an acrylic crystal, but hand winding, much higher beat. This also has an ETA movement in it. It's just kind of one way to do stuff. But I still think the thing that Seiko has that's really awesome is that they are, you talk about, okay, fine, has a bender's movement, but the bender's is really an ETA. And then you have here. Then you have this Arlie, but it has an ETA under the hood. The great joy of Seiko is that, like Rolex, everything under the hood was made in-house. Even Omega is basically all ETA stuff for the most part. Mm-hmm. But Seiko is a Seiko. Every single bit of it is Seiko. Inside, outside, they designed the movements, designed the cases, designed everything, and they had their own style. And so as a result, these watches really stand out. They're very unique for their time. Like if I'd had my brain on, I would have brought down my Rolex Submariner.
Oh, sorry, I'm not wearing it.
Oh, well, I'm wearing a Rolex.
That you would absolutely go diving in.
No, and never in a million years.
I'm teasing.
But they look very, very conservative, the Rolexes do, compared to something like this. And it's just such a distinctive look. It's instantly recognizable and very high quality. Seiko did a great job. It's just, and now I'm just like heartbroken because everybody and their dog wants to buy this thing. And I'm like, maybe I'll get another one someday, but I can't imagine I'll ever get one this nice. It's just such a joy. Such a joy. Anyway, but that kind of weird rambling video is sort of an overview of where the 62 MAS sits in terms of Seiko's dive watch history. Did you have any questions? Was I even slightly coherent?
Yes, you're coherent.
Okay, well that's good. I was coherent. All right, well that's really about it. I'm going to hop and we'll go from there, and I'll try to decide what to do with this watch. Yeah, it was fun doing the loom. It's a neat process that I came up with, and it produces really good results. My goal is always to do the best thing that I can for the watch, and in this case, there we are. And that piece of loom that I found inside the movement, I reconstituted along with this other new loom, so that new loom went back in. It's not perfect. The color's not perfect.
It looks perfect to me.
It's slightly lighter.
You are too modest.
I just, I see the things that I could have done better.
How often am I like, holy crap?
I don't know. Well, also it helps that the watch is in such nice condition.
I suppose.
They're really elegant watches. They're not only true dive watches, but they're a true dive watch, but they're so unique. They're not any kind of cookie cutter thing. They absolutely have their own style. It's one of the reasons I love Seiko as much as I do. I mean, the Arlie's neat and everything else like that, but honestly, the 62 MAS is a far superior watch. Anyway, that's it. So, more talk about Seikos. Mm-hmm. Seiko dive watches.
Yeah.
Now I've got to make a decision. Okay.